I'm David with Bristol Snow. I'll talk to you today about salt spreading. Key thing for commercial properties is you got to have salt. It's important to keep people safe. There's certain things that only salt can do, such as dealing with ice or very heavy, almost icing type conditions. And so because of that, you got to be able to use salt and you got to be able to carry it efficiently. So what we have here is actually a tailgate spreader. They have two different sizes. This is the smaller of the two. This will hold 7 buckets of salt, and it will spread salt for about 1 acre. So we're getting near the end of this. I've already salted most of this property. This is our biggest single site, and so we got what looks like a good amount of salt left. So on this we have an auger inside that pulls the salt out and regulates it. Then we have a spinner, and that's going to throw the salt over here. So this is a site I just plowed, and you can see there's still some residue here. So we're going to go back to the truck, and here's our controller. This is a SnowX controller. We use the SnowX Western and so on for this. Here we have some different options. We've got the light, and it's hard to see in the dark or in the light here, but this is the light. We use this all the time when plowing. This is vibrate, this is on and off, this is blast, which I hardly ever use. These are your two controls. There are less expensive ones that only have one control. I don't like that. I'd like to be able to have more options, and so this gives us a total of 2 controls plus the truck speed in order to regulate how much salt and how wide the pattern is that we put down. So the first is the material flow. The material flow is the auger, controls the auger. This is how much salt is getting pumped out each for each minute or whatever. The material width is going to either concentrate or spread your salt wider. So the faster it goes, the faster the spinner goes, then the more that this is going to spread. Then what I do is I'm always going to start with the shaker or the vibrator. And with this, the reason I do this is because inside is a plate, and this needs salt that has to be operating in order for this to work. Now for this demo, I'm going to turn down all of these just so we're not getting blasted here. Normally I run with both of them all the way up. The other reason I turn the vibrate on first is because I can usually hear it. If I'm running snow blowers or something, I can't, but you want this on here because worst case is you turn on the spinner and you forget it's on and you empty the whole hopper and now you got no salt. That's kind of a worst case scenario, assuming that your machine is operating. So here I'm going to turn it on. The vibrator is already on. This is starting your spinner, and here's the spinner. It's putting out salt. You can see about the width here. The salt's coming out. Puffing out. You can see it's already a decent amount of salt here, so I'm going to start moving the truck and increase the spinner speed. That's going to spread the pattern wider, and so I'm going forward here. The third material control is, and now I'm going to turn it off since I've got all the salt that we need. And I don't know if you could hear it, but now I could hear the vibrator turn off. When you hit off, the vibrator automatically turns off. So here we can see what we've got here. That's the flow there. Here's our big half circle of salt. that was on low. Then you can see it widened up. We got salt going pretty much the whole width, and you can see it spread out here. This is obviously concentrated on the ground just from this demonstration, but it's throwing salt. And if we look over here, you can see here's the granules of salt. So pretty good amount over here. So with all this going on, sometimes people say, I don't think anybody's salted. And the way the salt works is that it combines with the snow, with the moisture, goes into solution, lowers the freezing point of freezing temperature, and in doing that, then it keeps things from freezing. There's our salt, and there's part of the system there to keep that working. So because of that, the salt is going to dissolve in your water, and then you have water left. You don't have salt. So if it is effective, salt actually gets absorbed into the water. This is going to take between 15 to 30 minutes to really get going and work, and then we'll be able to see it dissolve. So sometimes people are like, wow, look at these big granules that we have here. Well, that's what we want. We want big granules. And so if you look at a parking lot near the end of a storm and you see a few big granules laying around, the reason those are around is because they did not dissolve. So salt that does not dissolve is of no help. Most of the work is by the small salt that you never see left at the end of the storm. So because of that, if you're a customer and you're like, I want to see lots of salt, you actually don't want to see lots of salt. That means that salt didn't do anything. That salt was no help. It's a Dumbo's feather, feel good, I see some salt around, they must have salted. But it doesn't actually help in the sense of making everything safe for people. So that's about salt. You need salt for commercial properties. It's very important to be able to do it right. Using a salt spreader will get those parking lots going much quicker.